Hi, besties. Thanks for joining this week. I have a fun friend joining. He has not been on the podcast before. You probably saw his name, well, like everywhere for a minute there. Especially, gosh, this was like a month ago. I can't believe it already. I have Jared from the Bravo Tea with Jared B podcast. Thank you for joining to talk some Southern charm today, Jared.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin. It is an honor to be on Besties by
Oh,
Bravo. I've been a fan for a
listen.
long time.
Well, you keep talking like that, and I mean, you're gonna be forced to be coming on here every week. I just have to tell you, the way Jared and I got to know each other, I listen. This whole thing starting a podcast in and of itself is like kind of a beast that it seems like, oh, everyone and their mom's got a podcast. And no, it's not that easy to start it, number one, especially if you've never done anything like this before. And I was just looking through my email. My problem is I have two different emails. And one's like this really cool official one that I forget to check. And then I have my Gmail. I need to check my official one more often because Jared did something that I really admire, and that not a lot of people do. And I'm going to show you how that pays off when you take a risk, take a chance, and you put on, your big adult pants and say, "Hey, would you listen to my podcast for a second? I just was wondering if you had any tips, any advice?" And I just was like, yes, absolutely. I love people who take initiative because it's not easy to do. And so, we started talking and I listened to his podcast and I was like, oh my God, I love his takes. He has fantastic like presence. And I just thought you were so fun to listen to. And I said, listen, Jared, I think you just need a little bit of exposure and that's it. Right. So you and I had been messaging back and forth on Instagram maybe like a week or two later, I want to say. And you were talking about a guest you were going to have on. And then you just kind of threw into the conversation. Oh, yeah. And gosh, Rachel, aka Raquel, just so I don't think I need to put the Raquel disclaimer. Everyone knows who we're talking about when it's Rachel now. Commented on my video from my podcast talking about her episode with Bethany. And I mean, I went, do you want me to post about that? I mean, do you mind if I do? Do you want me to? I was like, some of my followers just ignore the shit out of me, so I can't guarantee anyone's even gonna look at it. I mean, I dead serious was like, let me throw on a little makeup after being at the pool all day and let's just do a quick TikTok. And it was like, I probably could have done, I not probably, I could have absolutely done a better job with the video. But the way it just started rolling out and people were saying so many good things, other content creators were saying about your takes on everything. And I was like, see, this is the validation. You're good. You don't even need my advice. You just needed the exposure. So, y'all, this is also me saying, go listen to Jared's podcast because I'm telling you, he has really great insights. And I love listening to people that are like that. And I know if I like listening to him, y'all will like listening to him. Okay. Listen to my Southern coming out for a Southern Charm episode. Okay. Anyway, so I'm so glad you're here. We are just going to be covering two episodes, just Um, and maybe we should just kind of start from our premiere episode. What do you say?
Of course, I at first have to say before we get started, I just
Mm.
want your listeners, your followers, your viewers to know how much of a good person you are.
Oh
Because
my
to
gosh.
take the time out of your day to not only give me constructive criticism, but boost me in a way that had me all over the place, unexpectedly. And you've been a mentor and
Oh.
such a kind person, and in this world of Bravo content creators, it can get a little competitive, and not everyone is as nice and accommodating as you have been. So I am forever grateful for you,
Oh.
Caitlin. Forever.
You're gonna make me tear up and I'm like blushing. This I that is so sweet of you to say. And I am more than happy to be that person. I mean, there's space for everybody here.
There is.
And yeah, and that's the thing is, I do believe that typically you get back what you put out, and it just kind of That's just what we do, you know? And also it's in the name, Besties by Bravo. Like I want to welcome everybody. You know what I mean? That's just what we're here to do because we like our drama on our TV,
Yes.
not in our lives. You know what I
Not
mean?
not at all. I agree.
That's
Amen.
yeah. I mean, listen, that's why I'm like, sometimes when I'm watching, I'm kind of like, oh my God, my heart starts racing even thinking about being that person sitting there. And like I may talk a big game about, well, I would do this and I wouldn't do that. I would probably be in the fetal position half of the time with what these people are doing. So
It
let me just say that as well.
I just have to say, like, as I turned 30 last year, I'm 31 now.
Hmm.
But I would say in my 20s, if someone came for me, I
Hmm.
would have no issue with coming for them back. But like now, I'm just like, I don't have time for drama. I want peace in my life. If I
Hmm.
have an issue with a friend, let's discuss it, let's squash it, and let's move
Hmm.
on. Because I just,
We got to keep it moving. We don't have time for that.
yes, no time.
Listen, like I've been dealing, there's one person in particular that's been a content creator that's been a difficult person for me in particular, but every time there's someone like that I've encountered, I end up meeting about 5 or 6 other people that person has really been, we'll just say rubbing the to put it mildly. So it's interesting because you do get the validation as well whenever someone is not an ideal person. Look at me trying to be like a little bit PC. Um, and I'm like, I don't even know, like, what podcast am I on? When in the next few minutes, I'm gonna be like, this fucking douchebag over here. Like, who am I? Y'all, it's been also
I
been a
love
long
it.
day. I had an audition that I'm just gonna manifest booking. And don't worry, it was a commercial, guys. I know the SAG actors were still on strike. Commercials are not part of the contract. So I'm feeling a little loopy. And before we get fully dive in too, I'm gonna take a sip of water, but I'm going to mute my mic so no one else has to hear this happen. Hmm. Okay. Southern Charm. We've been hearing this was going to be a good season, and I'm glad so far it is. This is one of those rare shows that getting more of the same is actually okay for some reason. Like most of the others, we get sick of that. You know what I mean? So, it's all starting out with the confessionals, this like they're expecting us to be like, "Oh my god, it's going to be such a good season." If they like do that cut of the, "Oh, you were asked a question here," and it's like an immediate cut from one cast member to the next, and it's the ones with Taylor and Austin being asked if they hooked up, and that opening music, it's like that dark haunting,
Yes.
but also ba 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 ba. You know what I'm saying? Um, did you
I love
let
it.
me ask you let me ask you about this. What are your thoughts, when Miss Pat says that there says in the previews here, well, there was that nude photograph that Taylor sent to Whitney. Do you think she was joking, or do you think surely Taylor, but then we see later on in the montage they bring it up again, but it seems serious. What are your thoughts?
It's, Miss Patricia could be, give a little tongue in cheek. I don't know Miss Patricia to be a liar thus far uh, in these, what,
Mhm.
9 seasons of Southern Charm. So I'm
Mhm.
sure there is a nude photograph. I would not be surprised. Again, we're talking about Southern Charm, and this is one of the messiest casts on Bravo. They rival Vanderpump Rules.
Listen, I think I should have double checked. I'm always doing something like this, so now my listeners know by now that I'm always going to put a disclaimer if I didn't double check something. Pretty sure it was Queens of Bravo that said that called Craig Rinna Craig, and I will never unsee or unhear that because oh my god, he is absolutely the southern male version of Lisa Rinna, and I'm like it's like it makes everything he does makes so much more sense and so much more interesting in my mind now. So y'all keep that in your mind. Rinna Craig. But so far we like Craig at the moment, I guess, a little more than we liked Rinna. Jeez.
I go back and forth with Craig. Like
Right?
sometimes I'm like, I love this guy, and sometimes I'm like, oh, why
That's when he's
Craig?
in his Rinna. Yeah, when he's in Rinna
Yes.
mode. But then also sometimes it's like, shit. I mean, like he's making a point, but he didn't have to make it that way.
But I appreciate the fact that he's not afraid to stir the pot. He knows what he's doing. He's very good at it. And it kind of brings him joy. You kind of see it in the moment where he's just like he knows exactly what he's doing and he's like, "Ooh, this is going to be good."
He totally. He's got that shit-eating grin, like the Lisa Rinna, like, oof, you're so angry. Mm. It's like it's totally he gets his own version of that.
Yes.
Then okay, so there was I'm taking a few things from what I've heard from other people because obviously we're 2.5 weeks into this season, which how is that even possible? Um, I have to start out also. I am obsessed with Vanita's dog. Okay. Charles, I love him. Oh my God. He needs Vanita, bring him to BravoCon, please, because I want to meet Charles. He's so freaking cute. Just a cute little chubster.
Vanita, my hope for Vanita this season is that she like actually seems like she has friends on the show.
Thank you. Because I that's something I wanted to ask you is last year, I listen, I feel like Vanita, every single confrontation, she's so just like she stays more calm than anyone. And yet I felt like she was like this punching bag for them.
Yes.
That look on her face on the finale last year when Naomi said I forgot what she even said. She was like, "Get away from me, Vanita," or something. And that when Vanita started crying, I cannot like she looked like a little girl who just had her heart broken.
Yeah.
And I felt like the girls were so terrible to her. And aside from that, she is the only black cast member. We could count Caleb, but he wasn't like considered like main cast the way Vanita was. But she's the only black woman on this show. Leva, we have her, but as in we only have two people of color on this show. Now we
Yeah.
have this new guy, Rod, who's also a person of color. But it's like, especially in the South, on this cast with all these white women who get to shriek in your face, and then we all know. I don't even want to use the A word that is used for black women who, if she gave even half back what they did, I see.
It's
Mhm.
I remember tweeting last season,
Mhm.
like I don't even know if I tweeted Vanita personally, but I was like, Vanita, I don't know if anyone like is your friend on this show.
Mm,
And it doesn't feel like that to me as a viewer. And if that's not the case, go. Because I don't believe in I believe in taking up space, but I don't believe in voluntarily taking up space in places where I'm not welcome with people that
mm.
are supposed to be my friends.
I mean, yeah,
That that's that does not work for me. And I was just like, of course, how we were introduced to Vanita and Leva, it was
mhm.
during a difficult time in this country, 2020. And, you know, my hope is that Vanita finds true friendships with this
Mhm.
cast because I don't have time for it.
No, it's not. I mean, it's just not nice to watch that happen to someone.
No.
And I think Vanita, the thing is, while she doesn't at the moment bring a lot of she doesn't bring the drama. I think she's a really great support system for some of these girls.
Hmm.
Especially because we're going to see later on where she is actually saying, I think it was to Olivia, these people are not your friends. Interestingly enough. And listen, I think, the way also Vanita was there for Madison whenever she was trying to look all hot the year before last and piss off Austin. God, I listen, petty Madison, which also I have a hard time with Madison too because I typically like her. I in a way that I don't like her. Like I like that she is such a quick she can be such an asshole and just like I mean the way she can shoot those boys down and chop them off at the
Yes.
knees immediately, but I also she's been listen, anyone who proudly hangs out with the Aldines is not necessarily someone that I would be all for. Let me just say that
And unapologetically as well.
very unapologetically.
Yes.
Um
Yeah. Madison is, you know, when you watch like these housewives shows and you're like, I may, they might not be my favorite, but they're good for the show.
yes.
That's how I feel about Madison. Like, I don't know if I
Okay.
would want to be friends with her, but
Jennifer
she's
Aiden.
good for the show.
That's like Jennifer
Yes.
Aiden for me.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
there are very few of these people that I would be like, no offense, because I'm also maybe some of you don't like the drama outside of it, so I maybe I shouldn't say it that way, but there are only a handful that I'm like, oh yeah, I listen, I could hang out with you, like Leva. I think she is so sweet. I love her to death. I adore her. Leva all day, every day. You know, I and Vanita, I don't know that yeah, everyone else is a little too messy for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't need that.
You know.
Oh. Um, so I mean, listen, Craig and Paige, Craig is still going strong. Can we believe that? I'm like, wow, we're still going there and we're doing it, even though Paige seemed so incredibly annoyed by Craig. Oh my God. She was cracking me up though when she was like, I don't like jacuzzis. And what do you mean you don't like jacuzzis? I'm prone to UTIs. Paige is very much like one of
That's
those people
hilarious.
that like she like I've said this before. When she's in the world of Summer House, she's very like chill, right? But when she's in the world of Charleston, she seems so annoyed by everything. I don't want to use the word bitchy because I don't think it's bitchy. Not because I'm afraid to use that word, but I just don't find her to be bitchy at all in that way. I just think like it's so interesting to me what happens when different characters cross over into different worlds. And my best comparison, if y'all listeners are tired of hearing me talk about this from last year, I'm sorry. Fast forward for the next 30 seconds. My best example is did you ever watch the show Nurse Jackie?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, fantastic show. The
Yes.
reason why I felt like that show was so successful is the world they built around Edie Falco's character.
Hmm.
Um, every single person was so fluffy, rainbows, butterflies. Like, I mean, the other nurses, it was like no one did anything bad ever. They were so angelic and above the line that when Jackie would do something that really wasn't even that bad, it would look horrible. So things like
Yes.
that are bad, but like she wasn't full on murdering someone, like stealing the opioids from the pharmacist by banging him.
Yes.
She's addicted. That looks a million times worse in that world. But if she had been back in the world of The Sopranos doing that, it would have been like, oh, that's all she's doing today.
Oh,
You know, so that's where different, like, it's just different worlds and different people that make up that world will always change what we view certain characters as. So that's why it matters and it's interesting to actually have that crossover. So it tells you a
it's
lot.
the thing. What's interesting about Paige is like Paige and Craig, seeing Paige on Southern Charm and then seeing Craig on Summer House.
Mhm.
I don't enjoy seeing Craig on Summer House because
Same.
the worst sides of him come out on that show. And Paige
And
is
Winter
not
House.
on, yes, 100%. And Paige is not on Southern Charm enough to like see the worst parts of her. But the
Mhm.
thing is, like, when you grew up in the tri-state area, she's from New Jersey, she lives in New York, and it's a big change to come to Charleston. Yes, it's a very popular city in the South, but the pace at which Charleston moves versus New York City,
Totally
it's
different.
night and day. And when she talked about how, like, you can't order anything on Uber Eats past 10 p.m., I was like, I live in Atlanta, and like, it's the same here. I
Yeah,
get it.
same here in the burbs of Denver.
But,
Yeah.
sometimes
I
at
mean,
2 in the
except for Taco
morning, you
Bell.
want a burger and fries, and the
Oh,
options aren't there.
all you can get here is Taco Bell, which listen, I am a hoe for Taco Bell. It is so terrible. Like, and the thing is, like, when I go to Taco Bell, I'm like, if I'm gonna fuck it up, I'm gonna fuck it up. I am getting
Yeah.
so much food that it's like my final meal on death row. I'm gonna die. Um, it's it's everything. Um, but okay, so do you think Paige is actually gonna move, or do you think Craig will have to?
I don't. Paige is not going to move. Paige is not going to move. Paige is an Italian girl from New
Mhm.
Jersey, from a traditional Italian family. Paige is not going to move. If they are actually going to be together, Craig is going to have to move to New York City, and I don't know if he's going to do that either.
There you
Like,
go.
I,
Isn't
I,
that
I just don't.
I the only
They're
thing
like
I could
they're going like this.
that would make me nuts. I'm sorry, it would make me so nuts. I would have to have a whole entire set of my makeup at his house there in Charleston because can you imagine flying that much for me? Listen, I'm sure so many of you find this very hard to believe. I am not a light packer. Um, I will be probably taking 3 full bags to BravoCon for, yes, 5 days. I don't give a shit. I need to make sure I have everything and anything that I could possibly need or think of. Okay?
We're
Um,
the same person because when I was in Vegas the week before last, there
yeah.
for 2.5, 3 days, I brought 2 weeks worth of clothes, five,
Yes.
6 pairs of shoes.
Because listen, There's there are things that I feel like wearing when I'm like, I am having a skinny day. I am good with that. Okay? There are things that I feel like wearing when I'm like, I am hungover, I am bloated, I am puffy, but it's my tried and true. And yes, if someone spills a drink on me, I don't care, right? Like going out type of thing. And then the shoes, don't even get me started. That is so stressful to me. Like y'all, I will probably be talking about BravoCon for 3 months and then I will shut up about it. Okay? I swear. The shoes, I'm scared. I'm scared because people were saying that last year they got in like 80,000 steps going in like one day. And I'm like, y'all, I my feet, but also I gotta look. I gotta have a look. Okay. No,
Yeah.
this is bad. Okay. I'm sorry. Anywho,
I did walk.
so
I got in a lot
let's
of
see. I'm kind
step.
of skipping over
Like,
some of the stuff that I'm
yeah,
like super
it's
interested in,
I.
but
We barely left our hotel, and the amount of walking I did, like, one day, it said I burned 2,500 calories. My watch,
walking, the walking,
just walking through the hotel, which is a mall. It's not a hotel. It's a
literally
mall.
they're bigger than malls. They are like the Galleria. Why that is so Oklahoma of me to say. The Dallas Galleria is what I immediately thought of. Y'all, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. See, maybe I won't need to hit up the Orange Theory there. I told all of y'all I joined a cult. Joined the Orange Theory.
I do wonder at what point, to go back to Craig
Yes,
and
please.
Paige, at what point are they going to realize this might not work?
It's the part of having to grow up that's not fun. That like, you know, but they might be that couple that can make it work in the sense of, look, we are going to split our time this way. I had a friend who she didn't even live in the same state as her husband and before that slash fiance for probably 4 years. and somehow they made that work. It was mostly her flying out, but, some people, they like that better because I wonder if, like, Craig would drive Paige nuts if they actually had to live together.
I
I
mean,
think he would.
listen, the only reason why I am still single is because it is a beautiful thing to come home from work to silence and not have to answer to anyone. And I am afraid that I won't know how to be in a relationship with someone having to share space and time and compromise on that.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
And then becoming a parent, it's like, forget about your eardrums. It's like nothing belongs to you anymore. Whether you're the mom, you're the dad, you're the grandparent, like nothing on your body is just, well, I'm gonna have to say, especially if you're mom, but like it's everybody, but especially mom, because it's like, dude, the things he just like, if I'm getting him dressed, do you know what this child, this 2-year-old of mine, he'll grab my nose to balance himself. I'm like, "Why is it that big? That is so fucking rude." Like, what the hell? Like, just like the weird thing, like, oh my god. And yes, I don't know, silence. I was just telling Jared before, how it's like so quiet here in the burbs, and I have to sleep with a sound machine on because I can't I'm so used to not being silent at this point. Because when my child's asleep, it's like there are crickets, he screams. Like, it's to a point where I'm like, I didn't know my eardrums made that sound like that. Yeah, it's I don't if you know, you know. It's one of those type of things. Okay, so Olivia and Taylor, when they're going skating, that was kind of a weird scene, but here's the thing. This for me was setting up how Taylor and Olivia have become like bestie sisters, I mean, attached at the hip. And it's kind of like I don't know, man. I would never eat because Taylor calls Olivia her ride or die. And I'm like, honey,
For how
I
long?
mm-hmm. Because we all know what's coming. And here's the thing. Along with this, I have this whole thing where I believe that Shepherd Rose and Tom Schwartz are kind of the same person. Hear me out. They are both older. Of course, Shep is older than Tom Schwartz. They are very much like, oh, I'm gonna go treat this girl like garbage, and then I'll be able to afterward cry about how it makes me feel that she couldn't take it anymore. Oh, yeah, and I feel like commitment is like this, kind of abstract thing. And my other thing that I firmly stand by is that Tom Schwartz loves a word of the day calendar, and so does Shepherd Rose. The way
You're right.
they love to work in those thesaurus words. And I'm like, listen, I'm all for having a good vocabulary, okay? Have one, expand on it, right? But y'all, who are you trying to impress? Like the way that I don't know. It's just they're so similar the way Schwartz will be like, man, it's just like so esoteric and like, and Shep, I don't even know what like words he'll use. I listen, I have a good vocabulary. I read. It's just like I don't
Shep
know.
uses those SAT words.
That's
Um,
it. That's it
that
right there.
that's
Mhm.
what because I'm like, oh, I remember that word from SAT prep back in high school 12, 13 years ago.
Oh my
Um,
god, don't even
I,
talk about it.
I until you pointed it out, they very much so they are the same person.
They're
I would
miniatures.
say the difference between Shep and Sandoval is with Shep, especially
Schwartz.
when it comes to oh yes, you're right, sorry. Shep and Schwartz. Not Sandoval. Sorry. Sorry, Shep.
Yeah.
You've done some things, Shep, but I don't want to compare you to him.
Right.
One thing is that Schwartz puts on an act, I feel
Hmm.
that like it's like, is this real, or is this like an act to, like, the boy next door? But one thing with Shep, and I'm going to bring up this overused quote by Maya Angelou in the world of Housewives: when someone shows
Mm.
you who you are, believe them the first time. One thing I will say in defense of Shep is that he has shown us who he is
From the
from season
beginning.
1, episode 1.
You're right. You're right.
He has shown us that he is not a serial monogamous. He loves to go out, have a good time, hook up with girls. And that has been clear
Hmm.
since day one. So, in my opinion, if you are willing to enter into a relationship with Shep Rose, and you are expecting a ring, a child,
Mm.
wh- why would you do that to yourself? You're
Well,
not going to
and
get it.
no. And that's the thing too. That's such a great point because Schwartz showed us who he was when he dumped that beer over Katie's head. Schwartz is not the person. He just acts like he is this golden retriever puppy dog, and it's very easy to get sucked into that. Excuse me, get sucked into that with him. Um, and you know, I've gone on many a time about how I think Schwartz was quite abusive toward Katie. And I'm not talking about like physical abuse, but I mean, pouring a drink on someone's head, that is so fucked up. I just
Yeah.
like, I can never get over that. And then he did it more than once. He did it to Stassi too, dumps this full beer on her. Like, he just was so not nice to Katie whenever, and so, the shit he probably said to her and, like, the way he would antagonize her, like, when he goes up and has that, when they were at the wedding and he grabs the sushi off the plate, the way I was like, "Boy, I will smack the fucking shit out of that hand." Oh, and he popped it in his mouth with that, like, I'm so cute, huh?" Like, that, and I bet that was some good ass sushi there in Mexico.
Yes.
Fuck my sushi.
It's like, it's, one thing about watching these shows is, especially when you've been watching someone for a while,
Mm,
like Pump Rules and Southern Charm, is that so many people like try to put on this front of who they want us to view them as, but the cameras don't lie. They may
no,
manipulate when it comes to editing, but we are
sure.
seeing many versions of who you are as a person. So to try to travel back and forth between, like, this astute puppy dog,
Yeah,
highly educated, and then like the next
yeah,
episode or the next scene, you are a wreck, an asshole, worthless. It's just like, who were you trying to fool 9, 10 years later? Just be yourself, and you might get more respect from us.
absolutely. That's that, to even go further, there is someone that I think is a great example so far is Monica on Salt Lake City. I think she's been so well received, at least from everyone I'm seeing and who I've spoken with, because she's real about, look, I don't have all the money that these women have, and I appreciate that. The way that, like, Gina, she probably has about the same amount of money as Monica does at this point, and yet Gina's running around in a Versace swimsuit, which I can't get over that, because what a terrible choice. You can't go resell your
No,
freaking Versace swimsuit on Poshmark, okay?
no.
You can resell the Versace t-shirt at least. You want to go logo happy, do that. My God. And so it's the
Even gently used
pretending.
shoes.
Yes, absolutely. Do you know? I listen. You list that at a good price. I'm dying to get myself a pair of Gucci sneakers. I don't. I haven't because obviously, because BravoCon set my wallet on fire and I have to live. So it's just not going to happen right this second. Someday it will. Maybe by then I'll get a new pair. Okay. Anyway, trying to manifest, trying to use the positive language, and sometimes I'm like, oh. Um. mm, so I love how anytime these editors can get a chance to show us that video, Austin, when Madison caught his ass
Yes.
And Madison is walking around, clapping her hands like, we got caught today. And Austin's running out. Madison, Madison, you're literally being insane right now. Madison. It's like, I just love how they'll always shade him with that. And how in confessional, Austin ends up saying, yeah, I need to figure out why my relationships are the way they are. I don't think I'm supposed to be that guy that like never has a +1 at the wedding. Austin, you are over 6 feet tall, in the South, natural blonde hair. Honey, you're sort of easy on the eyes. What? It's you. You're the
Yeah,
problem. You're not tall, dark, and handsome, but you're tall and you're fairly handsome. You're the problem.
yeah. And like to go back to what you just mentioned about him talking about like not wanting to have a +1 to a wedding, that is a peek at an insecurity that exists, not just in him but in men, in many people, because a lot of people don't know how to not be in a relationship. You know how many weddings I've
Mm-hmm.
been to where it is
Yes.
just me and I'm still in the middle of that dance floor
Oh, yes.
breaking it down, like,
Yes.
I feel like so many people get their worth based off of being in a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
someone, because like in their mind, what does it say about me that I'm not in a relationship with someone? But like
Mm.
Austin, it, he's been on the show for 5 seasons now. Like maybe you actually need to take a break and get to know thyself
Mm.
before entering into a relationship with another woman and wrecking her life.
Thank you. Thank you. Go get a little bit of therapy. Read into what the attachment theory is. Learn because you're an avoidant, Austin. Which attachment theory is a whole other bag, but I find it, this show especially, I am constantly in that part of my brain, like thinking about some of their psychology. Like, it's some of it's not their fault because your attachment is formed at by 6 months old, which stressed the fuck out of me knowing with my child. But a secure attachment in people is very difficult to find. And the way someone becomes securely attached is literally in infancy. You can't be an anxious attachment and suddenly become a secure attachment. That takes some reworking. You're always going to be an anxious attachment. And what's interesting is anxious attachment types tend to end up with avoidance. And then you get people who are anxious and anxious. Avoidance and avoidance don't end up together. So that's probably part of why Madison could drive Austin absolutely nuts because she's someone who can be avoidant. And that's where she met someone who's a securely attached type of person from what we're seeing of Brett. And so that's what got her to settle down. Um, there's your small lesson in psychology. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was so awkward when Austin went up to Madison and Brett at her party. And he's like, clearly it was like a bottle of something, right? That the present he was giving them, the gift. And God bless him, Austin, he got that like far off look in his eyes when he was feeling so awkward, and that in that far off look he was desperately searching for like the best way to say this joke he had planned, where it was like, don't shake it because if it's ticking it means, and Madison's like, it's a bomb. And
Ah,
even Shep just walks off like, yikes. Like,
yes. I'm like, dude, just say thank you for having me. I wish you decades of love and success. Hand over the present and keep it moving.
so lovely to meet you. But it only gets more awkward. It only gets more awkward because then Austin in confessional is like, I thought this guy was going to be like a Greek god. I mean, the way Madison talks about him, she's like, oh, his dick is so big and he's so fucking hot. Honestly, what does this guy have that I don't have? And it cuts immediately to Madison. He is good looking. He is an adult. He cares about other people other than himself. He's perfect in bed. The list goes on and on. It's just like,
And I don't think we heard like more than 6 words out of Brett's mouth in that episode.
Did he even say anything other than, "Yes, hi, nice to meet
I
you"?
I don't think so. I would have expected something when he was handed the dildo as a gift from Taylor. But he just like had a shocked look, a little bashful, and was like, okay, let's keep it moving.
Well, he's Mormon, so I wonder,
Oh,
one, I don't know if he drinks alcohol, so maybe he also was a little uncomfortable with that. I last I had heard from people who knew, so this could be different, whatever. It's not like this wasn't a source I could directly confirm with. So let me put it that way. I don't want to be starting like random ass rumors or anything, but last I had heard his parents were involved in the church still. So yeah.
oh,
I don't know. But apparently
that
Austin wants
makes
to copy,
sense.
yeah. Austin wants to copy their honeymoon, which was super fucking awkward too. Um because he's like asking, so, how'd everything go? And or Craig's asking, I'm sorry, Brett and Madison that, and she's like, we went to Singapore and Dubai and Bali. And Austin's like, Singapore? You've always wanted to go to Singapore. And she's and he's like, I'm gonna do that too, if it ever happens. And Craig is loving it. He is loving this so much. It's like, I don't know. It's almost like, what do I want to like compare it to? Um, I don't want to compare him to a Dementor, but it's almost like if Ursula like could, instead of feeding off of Ariel's voice and like, the more she was like laughing, filling up on it, if like Craig could feed himself off of Austin's awkwardness, his uncomfortable moments, and his embarrassment, he would be like, I don't know, like Godzilla sized by now. That was such a weird road I just went
Yes.
down.
No, no,
I
you're
love
right.
it.
It's Craig expands almost. It's yes, he like just he sucks the awkward energy, a moment of conflict. He rises to the occasion. He's like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is my moment. This is where I can shine. Let me
Loves
lean
it.
in."
Oh, he doesn't just lean in. He leans in and brings it back with him. um I mean, he just um and then, oh, I was so glad to see Leva arrive. Listen, she's one of the very few, that this is something about me that I don't know if this will change. I don't know. I've tried to be very like, not that I have Bravo lips knocking down my door or anything, but I'm very rarely like contacting any of them, things like that. So let me just be real about this, because I try to like, if my problem is when I meet someone, I tend to immediately just like them, whether or not they're a great person. But so what conversations I've had with like Leva, she's a very real, very, very gracious, very nice person. So y'all might get annoyed with me being very much on her team. I'm not trying to say like, oh, we're like friends. We are friendly. That's a better way to put that. I'm not trying to make it sound like, oh my God, she's like, I'm her best friend. Leva loves me. But I do love her. So I'm just putting that out there. Guys, y'all know I don't overly defend too many people. So there we go. Um, so we're getting like the cuts, of like Shep talking about how his last month's been super rough, and they're setting it up for Olivia and Taylor to show up, right? Um, I really feel like we're in this era, like this portion of the season where it's like we're setting up for the men to be just the utter douchebags, and they're letting the girls look a little nutty. And I'm just waiting for that balance to come, because they tend to do this with Southern Charm. It either's a whole season of the guys being douchebags, and then a whole season of the women being, rising up, and then sometimes they combine the two. And I feel like we're going to get the combination on this season in particular. Um, did you notice whenever Austin is greeting like his exes, he gets this weird, like extra raspy, kind of giggly, like dad voice? Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you notice that? Like it's so like, uh, hi, how you doing? Oh, yeah, yeah. And it's that wasn't the, I mean, but like y'all, it's not. I don't know. It's like very particular, and it's it's like, dude. At least, like, speak from your diaphragm or something, breathe, you know? Like, his throat, like, closes up.
Because I think he does not know what could possibly come at him. I think it's pure nervousness. Like, is one of these girls just gonna call me out or like put
I'd
my
love to
dirty
see
laundry
that.
out there?
Please do. I freaking oops, sorry, guys, I just kicked that. That's a lovely sound to hear. I love it when an overly confident man, like, listen, he I said this about him when Sierra was, like, all hung up on him. He is an overly confident white man who thinks he's the shit because he's tall, okay? That's it. You take knock 5 inches off of him. I swear to God, you're gonna be looking at him more sideways than everyone is looking at JT, okay? Why am I talking with my Oklahoma accent so heavy today? Because it's Southern charm.
Oh, JT, he's he's coming in ready
Hot.
to stir some stuff up too.
Jesus. He's been dying to be on this show, don't you know? He has been like, finally.
He like seamlessly just jumped in, participated, stirred the pot, questioned things. I'm like, oh wow. This is not a rookie season for him. He's been preparing for this moment.
Absolutely. Practicing in the mirror more times than Austin did for that terrible half joke he got. He squeezed out of the back of his throat. So the toast. Oh Jesus, take the wheel. Um uh but before this, I loved how the cameras went ahead and gave it to us that both Shep and Austin were blatantly looking Olivia and Taylor up and down from their respective spaces. It was like, oh, these men know. They know they had some hot girls that they just let run away or that they pushed away. Let's put it that way. Um, then Madison's giving the toast. She's like, "You're my dream come true. I mean, honestly, I could cry thinking about it." And they pan over to Austin looking off into the distance. That's his far off look like, how can I make this funny and about me? And he like when he acted like, I just want to say, and everyone was like, what? I was like, Austin, that was not the moment to make the joke. Like, it's so awkward. Um, and then he is like, oh, cheers to the happy couple. So Madison gets the dildo. I now at first when Taylor was like, "Well, I got a bunch of these whenever the breakup happened," I was like, "Please do not tell me she's regifting one of those that maybe I'm not trying to say that she had used, but like that she had too many and was like, "Oh, thought I'd give you one of my extras." But I was like, "Girl, that is oh, Jesus." And Madison, listen, her response was perfect. It was the perfect Southern woman way to answer. She was like, everyone else got us casseroles and you got us a dildo. Oh, thank you. We won't ever forget it.
I'm actually shocked that she threw it away because, like, I understand she's a Southern woman. I understand that, her husband is Mormon, but, you're married and,
You're long
keep things,
distance.
keep things hot in the bedroom. Like,
Yes.
don't, you know, be like,
And I
oh, a
found it
dildo.
bizarre. Yeah, I agree that I found it bizarre that she acted that way about it. Do I think Taylor should have given her that gift then and there?
No,
Nah, maybe
I
not.
agree. I
Um,
agree.
not then. Because even Madison in confessional, she was like, I feel like a freaking hypocrite here talking about how a Southern lady should act, but like, come on, Taylor. I thought you
Yeah.
was this godly girl, little Jesus freak. I mean, WWJD girl. I'm like,
Oh, you're brilliant.
um, listen. So okay. This is where Shep goes up to Olivia and he's like, so like how should I approach like Shep's snow skiing voice is real thick and heavy. It's I and the skiing and the booze. I listen, but I think you need to check to see if you have GERD or something because that acid reflux is frying your vocal cords. um, and I ain't about to screw mine trying to do an impression of you. Um,
Oh.
but like he goes over to Olivia and he's trying to be like, so how should I approach Taylor? And Taylor, she knew what was happening. So she sneaks up right behind him over at the bar. And something I picked up on because and also, of course, Craig wanted to go immediately with his full beer to the bar. He was dying to go over there. He was dying, salivating. Um, and whenever Shep and Taylor finally start talking, did you notice this? Whenever he was like, so, what's been going on? She says she went to Europe, London, and Paris. And when he asked which one she liked better, she said London. And he said, oh, why? Because of the language barrier. And I was like, what are you insinuating, you asshole? And then it somehow had to be worked in there that he could speak Spanish, which I have a very like Shep speaking Spanish just doesn't work in my mind.
I can't see it or hear it.
No. Mm-mm. Um, so I guess Austin, I don't know what month this was, to be honest. I'm going to guess it was January because yeah, when I was out there, they were filming and I was out there in February. So, I'm gonna guess that's when this was. Because the way Austin went up to Olivia, that was so weird. Guess they hadn't spoken since Christmas, since before Christmas. And he was like, why, Austin, being upset that that Olivia didn't tell you she went to Sedona for Christmas? Like, bro, you did like the most fuckboy thing. Hope you're having a Merry Christmas. And she sent you a thumbs up. Like, what the hell do you want from her?
I
And she, yeah,
I'll continue.
no, please.
I I just want to say one thing I love about Southern Charm is how they have such strong and opinionated women on this show that literally like shrink the men on this show when it comes to like just saying hello to your ex. Like I find it very interesting how these men who have such a strong vibrato and like want to pound their chest, and I hook up with these women, but like you cheated on your girl and you can't even have the confidence to be like, hey, hey Taylor, hey Olivia, how have you been? How's your summer? I know it's been a while. I find that dichotomy quite interesting, where where men show how they're men, and then where men show okay.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, they show that they're really not quite so what's the word? Like what's why do I keep wanting to say He-Man woman hater? That's from Little Rascals, isn't it? The He-Man woman haters club. Um, but they're not tough shit. That's the thing. And like when Shep goes off to like pout and he said in confessional about how yeah, like she's so combative and her whole demeanor's changed and I feel responsible for that. It makes me really sad. Yes, it would if it wasn't you, it was going to be someone else. Don't take yourself to be such an important figure. She was in a relationship with you for a very long time and she is very young. I don't even think Taylor's 30. If that. And so I mean, come on. So
Yeah, to be like I'm the one that did this, almost as if it's a trophy that you put on the shelf. It's like, come on, guy.
it's just taking too much credit. Too much. Um So then when Taylor is talking to Austin and Rod about how Shep was nice to her and she was saying that he does that to make himself feel better because he she then says he's like, I fucked so many people and cheated on you so many times and Austin is cringing and walking away. Now, my first opinion on why he was cringing and walking away has changed and evolved because I think it's that he is terrified of her finding out all the shit that he knows Shep has done. Um, for whatever reason. Because I guess also Shep hooked up with someone in California and all that. And so she also says that all of them knew about it. Um, and Austin just keeps saying like he has no idea. And again, we know why he was lying, why he's saying that and why he's lying. He also knows what he was getting up to in Australia. Um, and so Taylor is just going on about the whole thing, right? And then she also says, "What about Craig calling you about Mia?" Okay, so here's another thing. M- Mia is a doll. She is probably one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in person. Let me just
Stunning.
I mean, oh my God. She is she even 25? Um, no.
I don't think so.
From what I've been told personally, she was not reciprocating, okay? Anything. And it's kind of annoying how they are insinuating because they're trying to make Shep not look like the bad guy. And they're trying to put it on Mia because I mean, that makes it easier for them, obviously. Um
She's the
so
scapegoat.
absolutely. And listen, we're not here for it. Let's just put it that way. Um so trying to move
It's
us hmm.
so like that moment where Taylor called Craig out about possibly knowing about a lot of the things that Shep has done. That was a moment where I'm like, ooh, that that's a situation that men often find themselves in when in friendships with other men.
Hmm.
Because it's you might have a friend that does things that you know they shouldn't be doing, and you're like, I I just need to play Switzerland and just stay out of it.
Mhm.
Or you can be a Craig that, gets involved in it. But it's I understand why Taylor is upset because she felt like she was friends with Craig, but the truth of the matter is that you were friends with Craig because your boyfriend is friends with Craig.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, when it comes to guys, unfortunately, it is about having each other's back and protecting each other, even if it ends in Taylor's tears.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is it's like they are going to do whatever they have to do in order to protect each other because they all have shit on each other. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. I don't think personally Craig is so incredibly confident that unless he were to be pulling a Sandoval type of confidence thing, which I don't think he would. He was very upfront and honest about every aspect of who he was hooking up with, who he was going on dates with when he and Paige were in their, newer stages. So I don't think he has anything to hide. I think there might have been a time in his life when he probably did. And
Mm-hmm.
so for Craig, it's easy for him. He doesn't necessarily have anything to lose in that aspect, but he definitely is going to like it's his friendships that he would have something to lose. And so that's where he will go ahead and defend them until it comes back on him, when he and Taylor are yelling at each other back and forth, which listen, before we even got there, I guess Paige we're going to be, seeing more of her eventually. That's at least what it sounded like. And love how it absolutely tracks that Paige and Craig don't leave the house or she's our bed rotting queen. Okay. Just the same way she doesn't get out of bed in the Hamptons. She's not getting out of bed in Charleston either because Craig tells Olivia when he's trying to get them to hang out that, yeah, well, we never leave the house anyway. It's like, no, because Paige is like, I'm not getting out of bed. Get me the Uber Eats and we're gonna stay in bed. Totally tracks. Um, so they're trying to leave, and this is when the explosion is really happening. And Taylor is clearly drunk. Yeah. But because she starts in on Craig about how she feels like she didn't like she felt like it was shitty the way he approached their breakup. Well, why did he have to approach it anyway, right? And this is when Craig starts throwing Shep under the bus. He's like, "Listen, the fuck you will drag me down with you, sir." Because he well, because also Taylor's trying to say that he was laughing whenever they were talking about Shep cheating on her, and he's like, That's when he looks at Austin, because he's like, well, that's not true if he told you that. Austin, did I ever laugh about Shep cheating on Taylor? And that's when Austin goes, you laughed at Shep's behavior. That's it. And that's because he's a clown. Well, that's what they all actually think of Shep at the end of the day. And, that's when the whole
Very true.
thing, yeah. I mean, they don't think very highly of him anyway. I don't think we've known that for a long time. Okay. Especially like, remember when it was the Shep, Austin, Chelsea triangle, right? Like it was a whole thing. Like, um,
The joke is it's I mean, they clearly know who each other they know who each other are. That does not sound like proper English at all. I'm sorry. But it's they know each other's personality, they know each other's flaws, they know each other's quirks, and I do believe that they don't take Shep as seriously as Shep takes himself.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the joke is on Shep.
hmm Tough shit. That's what happens when you are trust fund baby and you don't do anything with it? I mean, listen, yeah.
Even if
Um,
I came from money, I could not imagine just not
just
doing
sitting.
something. Like, I can
We're
only give myself a day or two, a weekend to be in bed. And then after that, I'm like, I need to get out. I need to do something, get a hobby. Like,
yeah.
just don't rely on that mailbox money. Create something else to, something, Shep,
hmm
something.
it gives you a different sense of self-worth is the thing. Um,
Yes, because it's
and
like, I've earned this.
yes, absolutely. The money that you earn yourself feels so different to spend than the money I get. It's easier for me to spend money I've earned. That if it's something someone else gave me, I just feel uncomfortable spending it and it makes me feel sad. But you know what? I take that back. If anyone wants to send me money, I'll listen. I'll enjoy it. I promise. um that being said, Taylor, when she fully fucking loses it, and Craig, this is when it's like, okay, yes, Craig is saying something that is factual, but he said first he says that he threw Shep through a fucking wall and he would have actually done something that night regarding Mia, which no, because Mia would not have been part of that. Thank you very much. Um, and she's like, Taylor's going like, really, you did? And this is when Craig loses it at her on her. And to put into context, again, friends, this is at a wedding party celebration. We're supposed to be celebrating love. And he's screaming back at her, so screw you. If it wasn't for me, he would have slept with the fucking girl and I should have let him. Yikes. Jesus, stop yelling at me. I didn't cheat on you, all right? My friend did. So stop fucking yelling about shit you don't know about. And that's when Taylor says, what about your girl cheating on you? Wow.
Yes. I was like, ooh, ooh.
hmm so I kind of just like this next episode, not a ton happened until we really got to the setup of um well, Austin and Austin and Taylor, because yes, we got to meet JT, and JT really started like hounding Shep about all of this, about losing Taylor, which by the way, they did end up showing the merch. They first went to Uptown Social, which I'm wearing. Thank you to that whole restaurant group. They also own Bodega and Sharehouse, which my t-shirt from them that is like one of their kind of fun pun t-shirts that says great and bread. It's in the wash. I was so bummed I couldn't wear it too. But yeah, this sweatshirt, it's like super cute. It's got little doodles on the back. It's adorable. So if you're ever in Charleston, you want to get their merch. It really is like worth getting. I've
I need
seen
to go to Charleston.
you do.
I've never been.
Listen, it was my first time as well, and it was so fun, and it was so like, listen, it was just like such a great atmosphere. Really great time over there, and of course, go to Leva's restaurants in Republic as well.
Can I just say how much respect I have for the fact that Mia has been dragged into Shep's relationship drama. And I have not seen a statement from Mia, a post on Instagram, nothing.
She commented once, and she said something to the effect of like, not dragging me back into this again. That listen, enough. And she didn't say much more than that. She was just kind of like, what the? Because I think she knows we all know. Like, we all know. Come on. Look at, I'm not trying to make it about looks, but come on. She's not. She's not. She didn't. It wouldn't. um, but man, JT is like just so upset that Shep would let Taylor go. And why do we think that is? Because JT wants Taylor and he wants to know, okay, is she crazy? What is it about her? Why would you let her go? She must be crazy, right? That that's all he wants to know. Um, and so we kind of really just keep, and again, we're on the second episode. But he's like telling him over and over, you had the best girl in the world and da da da. Well, we eventually get to the part where JT brings up how Austin and Taylor had a sleepover. And you hear like the and that was a record scratch in case you're sound effects over here. I need a soundboard or something. Um, and Shep's like, what are you talking about? And so JT says, well, the other night we were all at the bar and she was like, I'm tired. And then we all went back to yours, Austin's, and you let me leave. And it was just the two of you. And then the next morning he was texting Taylor to say, like, do you want to go get coffee? And she was like, I'm leaving Austin's now. And Shep is just like completely side eyeing, right? And Craig goes, she spent the night at your house that night and it was just you two. Craig is like, and
But what was
Austin,
weird,
hmm,
sorry to interrupt
no,
you. What
please.
was weird about this whole is you see on Shep's face that it's kind of not okay with him. And then I believe Craig is like, how does this make you feel? And he's like, honestly, I really don't care. And I'm like, why are you lying to yourself and us?
Because
Like,
that's how he sleeps at night. That's it. He can't he cannot be honest with himself. Yeah, or he would stay awake. All the skiing he does would keep him wide awake.
like if I knew that, like, because like I have guy friends who are in long-term committed relationships who have been with their partners for a long time. You become friends with their girlfriends, wives,
Yeah.
fiancés after a while. I would never, if any of them broke up,
No. It's
sleep
bizarre.
over,
No. No. I wouldn't. No, that's so
line
weird.
crossed.
Completely dead and gone. Thank you very much. Um, and did you notice this whole thing that like Austin was saying in response? It was very eerily similar to when Sandoval was telling James that Rachel had stayed the night at his house. And it was like, well, no, she was in the guest room. He was so parallel to me because Austin, his reply is, no, listen, I was downstairs. I thought that she left. And come to find out, she was, in the guest room and woke up the next day and she was like, walks in my room, was like, hey. And I was like, I didn't know you were here. And she was like, yeah, no, I got drunk. Very
You're
similar.
100% right about that. I never even thought your ability to connect behavior on one show to another is it's
They're
quite
sister
impressive.
shows. Well, they're
Yeah,
sister
they are.
shows, They really are. Um, and at that point, Shep Shep heard it because he looks directly into the camera. Okay. He pulls a full-blown like office move, just throws his hands up. I mean, he was fucking done. And then when JT points out, how weird the area, that gray area that Austin and Taylor's relationship has hit, and that if Shep had a sleeper with Olivia, Austin would be pissed. And Austin's like, no, 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 man. I think of her like a protective brother. And then Craig goes, have you ever kissed? No. And then Craig is so openly messy sometimes, I swear to fucking
Yes.
God. Because Craig goes, I'm gonna go get a beer. He looked down and to the left when he said that. Like, as if Shep would immediately know what he meant when he was like, he looked down and to the left. Okay.
And I think it's because Craig knows that unless he asks the right questions,
Yeah.
nothing is going to be answered truthfully. Like
Yeah.
Craig knows who these guys are, and he's like, it's unfortunate that I have to do all of this in order for us to get some truth out on the table.
But he's like, oh, so sad I have to drag this out of you. I mean, oh, I'm so sad to stir the pot. He loves every fucking second of
Yes, he does.
it. And this is also, see, here's another parallel. Stassi said that to Jax one time when she was actually catching him in a lie. She was like, you look down and to the left, you're lying. Well, it's funny because we all know they're lying, but here's a really interesting little trick you can do here. It's not necessarily that people look down and to the left when they're creating. It's about creating an answer and creating a scenario. So if you ever want to know if someone is lying, look at them and just like without prompting, just be like, even if you could imagine the you have to ask a couple questions first, but ask them some questions that you'll get the truthful answer, right? Like very simple. I'm sorry, you said you grew up in the tri-state area and you yeah, and if you happen to just look cuz sometimes people look away for a second before they answer questions anyway, and so it's like you can't be that on top of people. But if you're at some point you're like, "So, if you could imagine what was like the first lie you ever had to tell?" Like if you're like, "What's, to get out of trouble?" And then kind of you'll start seeing their eyes go in that direction. And then eventually, if you're like, I want you to just without visually placing them, I want you to imagine what would happen, what it would be like if a pink elephant walked into this room right now. And a lot of times you'll start seeing the pattern of where their eyes went each time. Like if you bring up a lie, like the word lie, their eyes will go in the direction. I know it's so like over the top. I just find it so fascinating. Someone taught that to me one time and I was like, holy shit, this is actually really interesting. So
Yes.
down and to the left is not actually exactly where it is. But a lot of people go upward when searching for truthful answers for the most part. Um,
I have to
but
say that there's like maybe a 3 second delay for me for when like someone asks me something. I'm
yeah, sometimes you just want to think
like
for a second. Yeah.
yeah.
That's why it's like you can't take that whole like they looked this direction. Like you got to give people like a little bit of leeway. I just find that interesting. Well, then let's see. We get to the part where basically in confessional Shep's like, well, Austin's my friend and I just have to go off of what he tells me and because friends trust each other typically. So when the boys go to bodega or share house, they Craig is discussing with Shep about the whole thing and how, you know, it's not ideal. And Rodrigo shows up, and it was cracking me up how he was saying he ran into his ex-boyfriend and his new wife, and they were like joking about hanging out together. And it was the point that his ex-boyfriend was like, "Nah, dude, I'm done with men. I'm going back to women," which means it must have been pretty bad. Um, so, um,
That was quite fascinating to me because I
yeah,
had to rewind when he said, "Yeah, I ran into my ex boyfriend
I did
and
too.
his wife," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
What? Yeah,
I was like,
were
and I'm
you in a
wondering,
throuple?
does the wife know the husband had an ex boyfriend? That's
I
what. But the camera's on them, Bravo. I need to know.
Yeah. Bring them out,
Yeah.
please. But the interesting thing is Austin starts asking everyone when the last time they had sex was. And JT automatically goes with a girl. And so, listen, I wonder now, I'm not trying to put rumors out there, but I don't know if he was joking or if there was some legitimate, question there, or if he was like saying meant like just with a human being as opposed to himself. Um, it's the only other answer I have there. And they go around for a second, and Austin admits that the last time he had sex was 6 days ago. Well, I wonder how long ago it was that Taylor stayed the night with him.
Ding, ding,
Because
ding, ding, ding.
then they ask him who it was and if they know her, and he says yes.
I have to point out, like, I think it's very weird when like guys ask each other when's the last time they had like, who cares? I don't. It's just like, but the question is like, the intent behind the question is
There it
like,
is.
am I not having as much sex as I should be, or are you having more sex than I am? Like, it's competition based.
Yes, it's not the way a woman would ask her friends, like, "So, have you been with," it's because we're wanting to
Yeah.
know what's happening in, each other's lives and celebrate each other. Um, you're so right. It's the intent and it's just completely where it's coming from, which is not the same at all. And it's also like, was he trying to brag about it and trying to like throw it in their faces a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was so weird. It was a
These
bizarre thing to
these
me.
men, like the fact that they even think that any of us care when's the last time they had sex. No one is sitting at home wondering when's the last time Austin had sex. No one. No one.
Oh, these men. Honey, these men. I just listen, I one of my girlfriends, she's a lesbian and she's always like, "Why would you choose to date men?" I'm like, "Do you think it's a choice?" And she says that jokingly. But, she's always like, "It's your fault. You're dating men." That's like her shtick is to be like, "There's something wrong with you." I'm like, "Yes, clearly there is." Trust me, because it can you imagine these men being your options in that town? Baby, no. No, I would just leave. I think I'd have to just leave. Um, so
I sometimes often feel like out of place when I'm hanging out with the boys. Not all
mm,
men are like this.
this is true.
Will say this, but sometimes you find yourself with a group of guys that talk about like how many women they've hooked up with, and it's just like, and what they've done with these women, and I'm just like, are we in high school?
Yeah, like we like what base did you get, bro? That's what it felt like. And no, not
Yes.
all men are this way. I shouldn't not all men. Just all the men on this show.
Listen, I'm afraid that like some of my friends, girlfriends, wives, or fiancés are gonna be like, who are you talking about when you mention these things? So I'm like trying to be, I'm not talking, I'm just speaking in general.
The men
If
on the show.
anyone,
Mhm.
yes. Like,
And
don't come at me.
no, listen, it's everyone's different, but I think it's guys like them that are so like, oh, gotta be an alpha male because we're in the South, we're alphas. Um, it's a different type, right? Growing up in Oklahoma, I know exactly what that type is. Okay, um, they're everywhere. It doesn't have to just be Oklahoma. Hmm.
It's very true. They're in
Um,
Atlanta. They're everywhere.
yeah, you're in the South, you know.
Yes.
Um, and something Shep says at the bar was also very telling because it was like he was getting worn out from the whole thing of JT being in love with Taylor type of thing. And when he's saying how, maybe maybe he'll never find a girl as great as Taylor. And then he says that it's like, yeah, oh God, maybe not. I just know how much she loved me.
Yes. The fact that he could only mention the love he had for her as um almost like in his mind that like, oh, I shouldn't have let her go because she cared about me, but could not even say that he cared about her. But it also makes me think about, does Shep ever feel like he's ever been genuinely loved by a woman?
I shouldn't have left. That's sad. Well, because he's never. you have to give love to get love back, right? Unless it's your child, because that just happens. That love comes with some pain.
It does. I love you, Mom.
Yes. Um, but I when it comes to something like that, yeah, you need to be reciprocating it. And do I think that Shep was a different person behind closed doors with Taylor? Yes, I do. I don't think Taylor is that naive. I think she's extremely naive, but I don't find her to be so naive that she would just take nothing and run with it like this.
Yeah.
Do I think she should have quit her orthodontics, assistant job? Which, girl, why couldn't you just get another job
Yes.
doing that? Now, my question might be that now that she's full time, maybe it was conflicting with the schedules, and maybe she'll start up after. I don't know, but that was bizarre to me as well. Um, there was another interesting moment where Austin basically tells Shep, like, no, if they had a one night stand, if he and Taylor did, he wouldn't have told Shep because it would have been hurtful to him just to share that. It wouldn't have made anyone feel good. And that was a moment I had to rewind a few times. I was like, what exactly? Because sometimes I have to do this with this show and Orange County. Sometimes the way they converse, I'm like, what are you saying exactly? They're not totally clear with their thoughts. And it could have been the
I
alcohol at that point.
100% agree.
Yeah, right? Like,
100% agree.
it takes a minute to piece it
Yeah.
together sometimes. And so that's why I was like, okay, whatever. So, anyway, yeah, and that's like the look on Shep's face was like, oh, so you wouldn't. Okay. All right. And that's when Austin's like, but no, nothing happened. I think here's my thought.
Red flag.
Mm-hmm. Something we all know something happened, right? So whether it was that they actually had sex that night or if they just made out or something. Of course, that's Vanderpump Rules. They just make out with everyone, which is still so fucking weird to me. But okay, hey, whatever. That's the safest sex you can have, I guess. So, um, nobody should be getting pregnant from making out. Uh,
No.
interesting that we find out JT was married for 6 or 7 years to an English girl to help her get her visa. But he did love her, but now she's married to a ski instructor and lives in the Swiss Alps. Good for her. And we find out basically that Shep is 50-50 on something happening between Taylor and Austin. Well, we all know it's 100-0 now. So
Yes.
I I'm liking this season. I was worried without Catherine there wasn't going to be as
Yeah.
much, and the thing is, we didn't need the type of drama Catherine was bringing. We don't need it, and it's probably healthier for her, I think, and hope to not be on the show. Because I think she just that, and I think she's just never going to totally grasp certain things that, like, she's not progressing with with the views that might not have been her choices as a child. But let's say as soon as you can start recognizing things yourself, like, I don't know, maybe junior high age, you should be starting to understand doing certain things and saying certain things are racist, are
Yeah.
fucked up, are, things like that. Like, if you're pushing 30 and you haven't figured that out, I don't know how to
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah, you're a lost cause at that point. And
Yeah.
I was concerned. I would say the meat of Southern Charm from the beginning has always been Catherine and
Yeah.
her messy dynamics with Thomas Ravenel.
Ugh.
And but I noticed that when Thomas left,
Mm.
Catherine did not have much to offer the show any longer. And then when you're hearing that you're showing up late to filming, you're not a reliable cast member, I was like, okay, I could understand why they let her go, even though I'm willing to welcome her back. But I need some truth and honesty about
Yeah.
where she is in her life, what
Mhm.
she's going through, and how she needs to get to the next level. Because how does She's a mother of two, a single mother of two. How does she earn an income?
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes it freezes up on me, and I know that it's still recording you. So, if my answers seem delayed, sometimes, guys, that's just because I know he's still talking, and I just have to let it catch up for a second. It just does that sometimes because y'all know how these, video conferencing type of thingies are. But yeah, I agree, and we don't. Thomas Ravenel, I find it very rich that he had the sheer audacity to go on the, we don't call it Twitter anymore, the X, and talk shit on Leva, saying, "Oh, can't believe Leva's back. She's boring." Thomas, what did you offer besides a very much unasked for moose knuckle that was front and center coming down the stairs half the time, and some weird, like, fucked up daddy issue dynamics with a
Yes.
very young girl.
And heavy misogyny.
Ugh. Ugh. So glad that man is gone. So glad. And yeah, I'm excited to see what we have coming up. So far so good. It doesn't have to be the explosions every time, but Craig is gonna rena it up, and
Yeah.
I gotta have that respect for it. The messiness.
Yeah,
Okay,
my true hope for this cast is that they just like cast a wider net with the
agreed.
people that they like try to date. I just don't, and it's very much like bringing it back to Vanderpump Rules. Of all
Mhm.
the people, I mean, I guess it's easier in Los Angeles because there's millions of people. And I remember Cameron saying season one of Southern Charm that it's the ratio is like 10-1, men to women. But like why must you all hook up with each other? And
It's
it just like
incestuous.
it's weird.
Yeah. 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 It, mm, I mean, keep doing it though.
Yes, because it we enjoy the mess.
Love to see it. Jared, thank you so much for joining me. I want y'all to go check out his podcast. It's Bravo Tea with Jared B. You can also find him on Instagram, the TikToks. We're done with Twitter, but you could find him on X as well, I think. Whatever's happening with that platform, and it's at Bravo T with Jared B. Like, I don't know what Elon's doing with that shit. Go listen to his podcast. Leave us both some fun reviews. Subscribe on YouTube for both of us. And also, y'all, I'm gonna do my best to try and get a Salt Lake City episode out this week. We got a lot of content happening right now, and Mama's tired. We'll see. But again, thank you so much for coming on here. And friends, I'll see you all for the Orange County finale. And I should have Giorgio Takunakis back with me to talk about all the gossip and shit happening. Because there's just a nonstop just influx of it. All right, my friends, go check out Jared. And thanks for listening.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you'll be back.